In the quiet forests of the Mohawk Valley, where the wind moved gently through the pines, a young woman walked with a tenderness that the earth itself seemed to recognize. Her name was Kateri Tekakwitha, the lily of the Mohawks. She carried no dramatic miracles and made no grand gestures. Instead, her holiness lived in the way she moved through creation. Birds did not scatter when she approached. Small animals paused, unafraid, as if they sensed the deep peace within her. For Kateri, the forest was a sanctuary. The river became her prayer, and the sunlight filtering through the leaves was a quiet reminder of God's nearness. Kateri Tekakwitha was born in 1656 in the Mohawk village of Ossernenon, a settlement along the Mohawk River in what is now upstate New York, near the present-day town of Auriesville. This land was rich with dense forests, winding rivers, and the ancestral pathways of the Haudenosaunee people. It was a world shaped by the changing seasons, by close-knit community, and by the quiet rhythms of nature. When Kateri was still a small child, a devastating smallpox epidemic swept through her village. The disease claimed the lives of her mother, father, and younger brother. Kateri survived, but the illness left her face scarred and her eyesight permanently weakened. Because her vision remained poor, she learned to walk slowly and carefully, navigating the world through sound, touch, and patience. Yet her suffering did not make her bitter. Instead, it formed within her a heart that was gentle, patient, and deeply compassionate. While other children played loudly in the village, Kateri often slipped away to the edge of the woods, where the sunlight filtered softly through the trees. Even as a young girl, she felt drawn to quiet places, to the stillness of the forest, where she sensed a peace she could not yet name. As Kateri entered her teenage years, the quiet longing within her heart began to deepen. Her village of Ossernenon, located along the Mohawk River in what is now Auriesville, New York, was becoming a crossroads of cultures. Jesuit missionaries traveled through the region, sharing stories of Christ, forgiveness, and a life rooted in prayer. Kateri listened quietly. She rarely spoke, but something in their words stirred a recognition within her that she could not ignore. Her relatives soon began urging her to marry, as was customary in the village. But Kateri refused. Instead, she chose a life of purity and devotion, a decision that confused and angered many in her community. At the age of 20, she asked to be baptized. On Easter Sunday in 1676, she received the name Kateri after Saint Catherine of Siena, a woman known for her courage, purity, and deep life of prayer. From that moment, her life took on a new rhythm. She prayed at dawn, fasted with humility, and spent long hours in the forest where she felt closest to God. Her devotion was not dramatic or loud. It was steady and hidden, rooted in the same quiet strength that had carried her through the sufferings of childhood. One of the few sayings attributed to her comes from this time in her life. "I am not my own. I have given myself to Jesus." This simple sentence reveals the depth of her surrender, a surrender made not in comfort, but in hardship, misunderstanding, and quiet courage. Very few words of Saint Kateri were recorded. yet the few that remain reveal the depth of her love for Christ. I am not my own. I have given myself to Jesus. Jesus, I love you. For Kateri, creation was not simply the world around her, it was the language through which God spoke. This way of seeing the earth was shaped not only by her Christian faith, but also by the worldview of her people, the Haudenosaunee, who understood the land as a living gift entrusted to human care. The forests along the Mohawk River became her refuge. She walked their paths with a gentleness that seemed almost instinctive. Because her eyesight was weak, she moved slowly and carefully, placing each step with intention. Yet this carefulness became a kind of reverence. Birds did not scatter when she approached. Deer lifted their heads but did not flee. Small animals paused along her path, sensing the quiet peace she carried. When the pressures in her village grew too heavy, when her refusal to marry brought ridicule and her devotion brought misunderstanding, Kateri slipped quietly into the woods. There, beneath the tall pines, she prayed in silence. There, beside the flowing river, she found the courage to remain faithful. There, in the stillness of creation, she sensed God's presence more clearly than anywhere else. Her love for nature was not sentimental. It was deeply spiritual. She saw the Creator reflected in the beauty of the world He had made. And in the quiet harmony between Kateri and the creatures around her, people began to notice something unusual. A holiness that did not need words or miracles to be seen. Kateri's life was brief, but her light did not fade. After years of misunderstanding and pressure in her home village, she traveled more than 200 miles north to the Christian mission of Kahnawake, near present-day Montreal. There, she finally found a community that understood her longing for prayer, purity, and simplicity. Even in this new home, her health remained fragile. The smallpox she survived as a child had weakened her body for the rest of her life. Yet those who lived beside her said she carried her suffering with a serenity that inspired everyone around her. On April 17, 1680, at only 24 years old, Kateri Tekakwitha died. Witnesses later reported that moments after her death, the scars she had carried since childhood faded from her face. Her skin appeared clear and radiant, as if the suffering of her life had finally been lifted. Stories of her purity, courage, and deep love for God spread quickly. Pilgrims began visiting her grave, and many spoke of favors received through her intercession. Early Jesuit missionaries who knew Kateri Tekakwitha saw in her life a quiet purity and devotion that shone like a flower among the Mohawk people. In Christian tradition, the lily symbolizes innocence and holiness, and so she became known as the Lily of the Mohawks. Her gentle witness and steadfast faith were recognized by the Church when Pope John Paul II beatified her on June 22, 1980, honoring her heroic virtue and long-standing devotion among the faithful. Years later, the miraculous healing of a Native American boy in Washington, U.S. state, attributed to her intercession, led Pope Benedict XVI to canonize her on October 21, 2012, making her the first Native American saint of the Catholic Church. From the quiet forests of the Mohawk Valley to the hearts of the faithful around the world, the lily of the Mohawks continues to bloom, a symbol of prayer, purity, and unwavering love for God. Today, she is honored as the patron saint of ecology, the environment, and all who seek God in simplicity and silence. Her life continues to inspire those who walk gently upon the earth. Saint Kateri Tekakwitha reminds us that holiness does not always shine through miracles or grand deeds. Sometimes it appears in a quiet step along a forest path. Sometimes it whispers through a life lived with tenderness, humility, and courage. Sometimes it blooms like a hidden flower, unnoticed by the world, yet deeply known by God. Her story invites us to slow down, to honor creation, and to listen for God in the stillness around us. She teaches us that a gentle heart can be strong, that purity can be powerful, and that even a life marked by suffering can become a light for generations. And in her quiet way, she continues to speak. Walk gently. Pray simply. Let your life become a small, steady flame of love,